Yeah, very good afternoon to all the dignitaries and delegates for this workshop. Now, talking about earthquakes, what is our learning, understanding, whatever it is, but now it's a cascading effect on earthquake. So earthquake can trigger a landslide.
Yeah.
And then landslide can trigger a tsunami. So that we are talking about multi-hazard scenario, and at what state we are now. I'll talk upon that. Yeah, so everybody is talking about the fragile Himalaya, and because of the immature geology, I can say it's the youngest mountain chain, and the variability in the ground conditions, so whether it is rock strata or soil or whatever it is. So the topography also varying all over the area. So there are a lot of whatever parameters we are talking, that depends on basically the setup, tectonic setup or lithotectonic setup of the Himalayas. So because of that, we will face earthquakes, or we are talking about landslides, even flash floods, landslide dams. Those are So if I will talk about landslide disasters, we generally classify it into three. One is rainfall induced landslide disasters, because more frequent we don't get earthquakes, so 95% landslides or more than that are rainfall induced landslides. There are earthquake induced landslides whenever the ground shake with the existing setup of the ground. Then the deformation or the failure of the earth mass occurs. And another is anthropogenic induced landslides, it's man-made, and the debate is coming whether all the landslides in Indian scenario are man-made landslides. So whether we can call it as a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, because everywhere on hill we have interfered with the bearing capacity of the ground. We have ignored certain bylaws or regulations. We have engineering knowledge, but we have casually prepared our infrastructures on the ground. That's why we are facing that consequences. So if you see the scenario of earthquake-induced landslides in Indian context, you can see how many incidences we have, and if you will see the landslide distribution in Uttarkasi earthquake, due to Uttarkasi earthquake, there are rock landslides, rock avalanche, rock fall 99, debris avalanche, debris flow slides. So there is a distribution in different type of landslides, whether we consider any earthquake. So if you look at landslide science and research, it has 4 quadrants. One is hazard, vulnerability and risk assessment. But most of the time we talk about hazard zonation only. So we should look beyond hazard zonation. We should assess our infrastructure, how vulnerable they are when exposed to landslide, whether it is rainfall induced, earthquake induced or human induced landslides. And then people are talking about earthquake precursors. We have precursors on landslides also. Landslide never happen all of a sudden. The nature gives us a precursor always, but we ignore most of the times those precursors. So when the pore pressure or the stress condition is the worst, it crosses the threshold, we wake up and do the postmortem of the things. And the high precision, again the monitoring system or early warning systems, and then finally the mitigation measures. Mitigation measures are well established. We need not to explore anything on that. But in all the other 3 quadrants, we need to still explore on this. And if you will see rainfall induced landslides, spatially it is predictable and temporarily also it is predictable. And time scale and space scale it is predicted. Hazard zonation mapping we are talking, or microzonation in case of rainfall induced landslides. And for rainfall induced landslides, already landslide early warning systems are established, ground based, or you can say SAR interferometry or all those aspects. But if you will talk about earthquake induced landslides, it is already spatially where earthquake can occur, it is predicted, but the temporal aspect of it is still we are struggling with that. No early warning systems, but if at all we develop a lead time, maybe a concern to us in future scenario. And anthropogenic landslides spatially predictable and temporally predictable, because we are responsible and we are accountable for anthropogenic landslides. So when early warnings are not certain, so we should focus on the resilience part of it. When we don't know when it will occur, whether it is earthquake induced landslides or any sort of landslides, or in case of earthquake also, so we should more focus on the resilience part of it. So the vision or focus should be landslide disaster resilient society or built environment. How we can make our environment or society more resilient towards landslides, whether it is earthquake landslide or rainfall induced landslides or man-made landslides. And the objective is to provide a mechanism to enhance landslide resilience through local level interventions. It's a lot of scientific interventions are going on, but if we will not do disruptive science or translational science, it will not help our communities. So the last mile reach should be the community who are affected by this thing. And if you will see why it is relevant, you will see how much of area, whole northern Himalaya, northeastern Himalaya and western Ghats, they are prone to landslides, and even the prone to landslides and earthquakes also. If you will see, then you can see why it is so much important to take a look at this. And this is the message I am going to the dignitaries or the community, that this should be the model for landslide resilient built environment. Landslide hazard zonation we have done enough. We should look for vulnerability and risk assessment. And vulnerability risk assessment are two aspects. One is intensity of landslide, the other one is the resilient capacity of our built environment or infrastructure. So we have to reduce the intensity of the landslide and we have to increase the resiliency of the infrastructure. Then we can give a better balance for protecting our infrastructure or protecting our lives. For reducing intensity of the landslide, the investigation techniques, everything, even mitigation measures, we know very well where to fit which type of mitigation measures. But to increase the resilience capacity, we have to go for a repair retrofitting strategy to improve the resiliency. And there the local intervention is required. The public, the common man who has built a house in his lifetime, he should understand with such intervention my life is safe. So we have to work with them, develop the system, and they will invest in retrofitting it. Government need not to invest on retrofitting their houses. So up to that level we have to come and make our system resilient. And obviously the early warning systems or awareness or capacity building will be involved in every component of the developments. Then only it will work. Otherwise, always the questions like it is only the scientific community doing and understanding. It's not coming to the local public. So we have to interact. We have to integrate the public aspect into it. We have to understand their emotions, understand their level of understanding, and go to the field and work with them to protect their lives. And this hazard, vulnerability and risk, we have developed the methodology how it can be done, whether in a hill township or with a particular reference to a landslide. It can be done, the hazard zonation, whether it is earthquake induced landslides or rainfall induced landslides, hazard zonation mapping can be done. And in vulnerability level, the intensity is defined from the hazard thing, and the buildings can be surveyed. What are the weak elements can be identified, a existing resistance capacity can be assessed. With the hazard, we integrate the resistance capacity, we get the physical vulnerability of those infrastructures when exposed to landslides. And finally, depending on the proximity to landslides, again the risk will change. So the proximity parameter will come in, and finally the risk to each and every infrastructure or buildings or any infrastructure can be set. So this is some examples, spatially earthquake induced landslides or rainfall induced landslides hazard can be mapped, and the hazard zonation mapping can be done, maps can be produced, which areas are prone to earthquake induced landslides or rainfall induced landslides. Like we have taken an example in Gopeshwar Township, that is the district headquarters of Chamoli. We have surveyed 542 buildings, and what is the present resistance resilience capacity of those buildings, and then we integrating, and you can see the variety of structures, typology of infrastructures in this. You can have a stone masonry building, we can have 2-story dry stone masonry with wooden pitched roof, we can have single-story dry stone masonry with flat roof system. So you can see the variability in the construction practices. So we have to understand the practices in the hill, each typology of buildings, and what sort of intervention is required in each typology to make it resilient. Yes, sir. So that's the case. If it is very high susceptible to landslides, then what sort of scenario? Those 542 buildings, we have classified all the parameters, we have assessed, and finally we see that there are 143 buildings which needs intervention out of 542 buildings. So the repair retrofitting strategies for each type can be and communicated and make them understand, and they will come up with implementing those things. And the next is the mitigation of landslides. Nowadays we are too much of talking, making the whole hill as a concrete floor. So structural measures should be bare, minimal, optimal. We should more focus on the drainage management system and the biomeasures. The aesthetics of the hills we should not, and also we are using lot of cement, concrete, again carbon dioxide, we are contributing to that. So we should give more importance on that. And then the community level participation and building bylaws. For different hills, for different specific areas, the bylaws should be different because their topographic, their lithotectonic condition is different. You cannot have a prototype of structure or bylaw for Himachal Pradesh as well as Uttarakhand or Northeast Himalayas. Everywhere it will not fit in. So you have to have state specific bylaws and regulations to be followed. And the early warning system, the ground based system, CBRI and IIT Roorkee has already been developed and it is in replication stage. But with ground based, what Dr. Prakash was telling, that the new technologies like SR interferometry or drone based, UAV based techniques, if we can integrate with ground based systems, then finally we can leave the ground based system and rely upon the space based system. So that those sort of interventions are required for early warning systems in this case. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you very much.